Oh no! VR studios are closing or starting to make flat games. Microchips are getting so fucking expensive. The platforms are dying. It's time to panic. VR is dead. Or is it? Think about it. Maybe it's just what the clickbait accounts on Twitter want you to see. Maybe it's just what YouTubers that make obligatory VR is dead video every week want you to think. Yes, undoubtedly, we did hit a massive bump in the road. But it's not like it didn't happen with us before. If you think about it, since 2015 to 2020, let's say, in the last 5 years cycle, in the previous one, we had a lot of studios closing. We had a lot of games going out of service and saying ta-ta to us forever. If you're wondering who the fuck I even am, hi, I'm Walter the Jester, standalone VR enthusiast, but I'm also interested in all things VR related. And if you're interested in it as well, you can just subscribe to my channel right away. I would appreciate it greatly. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what the fuck is going on with VR industry, which way is it going? Admittedly, the industry is stuck in a weirdest place it has ever been stuck in. So, there are three major platforms right now. PCVR, which is basically an umbrella term just for any VR setups that involve PC. MetaQuest with its Android standalone approach, and Sony PlayStation VR2 that provides a console VR experience. Let's talk about PCVR first. In the last 5 years, PCVR was heavily advertised to me by its fandom and community as an enthusiast platform. I dabbled in it a little bit and I tend to agree in 2 out of 3 ways that a platform can be an enthusiast platform. First of all, we have modding, of course. And we have amazing people that are very important to the industry right now, like Flat2VR Studios and Team Beef, that probably both started with experimenting in PCVR. We have a lot of cool and even some major flat games that were translated into VR medium. Now, I'm not the biggest enthusiast of such mods and popular UEVR setups. I've tried the most highly praised ones, but many of them, like VRG or Borderlands 3 mod, they lack features that games developed for standalone VR or console VR have. And they even lack features sometimes that ports of classic PC games on standalone quests have. So I understand their impressiveness from technical standpoint, and I acknowledge and appreciate how much love and care went into them. But I'm definitely not the biggest fan. Now, the second way in which PCVR is an enthusiast platform is what I call big sharks. People with mad expensive rigs that primarily play simulations, like flying sims, War Thunder, like autistic airplane games and shit, VR mods for racing games, VR racing sims. We're talking about people who has like real wheels and pedals and probably just a whole cockpit of a fucking plane just built in their room to play War Thunder in VR. 8K resolution Pimax headsets with 100% binocular overlap that can do 8K textures in real time with like 4 fucking graphics cards stretched together in one mad fucking rig, and all this thing is also sucking your dick while you're playing. So, I do agree that PCVR is an enthusiast platform if we're talking about modding and if we're talking about millionaire rigs. But the third and very important part to me in which I disagree is that isn't enthusiasm supposed to be about also playing highly critically acclaimed games that like sold millions on other platforms? Like for example Super Hot VR or Asgard's Wrath, and also playing cool ongoing shit and cool niche indie shit. Like recently, I've pulled Steam charts about the most used VR apps on the platform, and there was no Forefront, there was no Memoriam, there was no Arcanage. There were like in the 20th thousands places, and the first five were like Forza Horizon VR mod, War Thunder, Subnautica, shit like that. So, a lot of enthusiasm with modding and insane setups, but a lack of enthusiasm with fantastic games that did well on other platforms. But I think that's about to change because Meta, the leading platform of the last 5 years, is bleeding capital and talent like crazy, and a lot of it is going to PCVR. Like we had PCVR announcements this month that I was never expecting was ever going to happen. Is it a positive thing? For PCVR people, probably yes. For the industry on the large scale, probably yes as well. It's not very positive for me though, because I'm a fucking broke guy who's stuck in Ukraine with fucking MetaQuest 3. And I'm not buying a new VR headset in the nearest future, not in this fucking economy, I can tell you that. Now, Meta did kill a lot of their studios. Mostly brilliant guys responsible for bangers like Metro Awakening. A lot of studios that I mourn to this day. But now, Grim Reaper wielding a very wide and very sharp thief. Guys, how the fuck do you pronounce that word? Okay, so Grim Reaper that was slashing through the good studios in the last 5 years finally is reaching meta subsidized slop makers that are basically blocking the way for a good products to appear. And I'm very glad that it's happening at the time when games like Exoshock are about to come out. Because if these layoffs reach the slop makers, and there will be less meta shovelware, or I like how some people like to call it monkeyware because of success of Gorilla Tag. If you're into VR, you know what I'm talking about. Like slop titles for kids to play around with. Mostly it's either free or just cheap shovelware with no bright ideas, no aesthetics. It's just slop. It basically is just subsidized slop that follows the popular trends on the platform and doesn't produce anything of value. So, I think these kind of studios are about to start dropping like flies. Because, in my opinion, there are some signs going on currently that that might happen. And I think it's a very good thing because there are currently a lot of cool games in the making for Quest. And there are a lot of already made, like, really cool, insanely good indie titles that you can buy for like 20 or 30 bucks. I'm talking like Memoriam or Arcane Age tier of shit. Like the real shit. And the real shit is almost never seen by casual user because he doesn't know what to look for. And the store page is just all fucking subsidized shovelware. And it sucks balls. So I think there is hope that Meta, neglecting their coolest developers and publishers and trying to subsidize all this bullshit, I think it can bite them in the ass in a very graceful way. that might even be good for an upcoming really cool gamer games on Quest. Now, because of how terribly Meta has neglected their own platform and their own talent, a lot of studios are really struggling financially. So they're kind of gaze around in a search of some additional profits, and their gaze stumbled upon flat screens. For example, Moss, a very prominent and famous VR adventure game, is getting a flat version, and people were freaking out about it all over X, saying that VR is dead because of it. Well, Moss makes logical sense in that way because I think it's not a first person game that doesn't utilize your 6 degree of freedom controllers to control your character's hands, which could translate terribly onto a flat screen. I think third person adventure game translates way more naturally. But then the news about Arizona Sunshine Studios hit, and that was some serious shit hitting the fan, I can tell you, because this time I wasn't on board with Arizona Sunshine getting flat version of the game. Because to me it makes absolutely zero sense. It makes Arizona Sunshine, a game famous for VR mechanics making it immersive and good, forced to compete with like fucking Dying Light, Dead Island, fucking Sinking City. They made it third person. So it competes with like DayZ and shit. And it's incredibly weird to me. I don't think Arizona Sunshine in this form is a decent competition. So in some instances, I think VR games reaching new audience and making VR studios making names for themselves in the flat world, in the flat gaming industry. Sometimes I think with Moss, for example, I think it's a good thing. But with games like Arizona Sunshine, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me. If anything, I think it's a road to going bankrupt potentially. Because if you haven't yet made a name for yourself in the 2D gaming industry and you're competing with fucking giants, huge titles, giant names that were there for years, if not decades in some instances, it's a very risky move. And I love Arizona Sunshine. Okay, I love studios that worked on the game. I love Vertigo games. I love all of you guys, but I don't think it was a right move to do. So I can summarize the relationship between Meta and PCVR fan bases by just saying that PCVR will be the enthusiast platform in the next 5 years, much more than it has been in the previous 5 years. And Meta is bleeding money and talent, and it's entering modding scene. Not yet on scale, but in some instances, I hope it gets avalanche effect, because it would be very reinvigorating for the industry in the period of stagnation like we have right now. At the same time, I'm very glad that there are hybrid games and cross-play games that are upcoming. For example, I'm very stoked for ExoShock VR because it will have a MetaQuest version that will be, of course, arguably shittier than PCVR version. And also, my friends who don't have any kind of VR headsets could just buy this game and play it with me on a flat screen. Yes, it would probably not play like your standard first person shooter, and it will probably feel weird on the flat screen because it's a VR game first and foremost. But I'm very glad that we're getting these motions, that we're getting more cross-play titles, that I can play Forefront right now with PCVR guys, that I can play V-Racer Hoverbike with PSVR2 guys. And I think that's where VR should go. Because games have small audiences. You wouldn't believe how small is V-Racer hoverbike fanbase. It's like fucking 15 people, and you have to go cross-platform. You have to go cross-play if the things are this dire. And I think it's also a good decision for games with more broad and stable audience like Forefront, for example. It's a right decision to make a crossplay too, to reach the wider audience and to build bridges between people. We don't have enough bridges, people. We don't have enough bridges and we need to build more. More bridges to the god of bridges, motherfucker. So I think meta will heal, but it will take time. And it will take a lot of enthusiasts and a lot of great devs and publishers advertising their products as loudly as they can. And I will help every single one of them if I like their product. Now, I haven't interacted with PSVR as often, so I don't have as much to say about it. The gear itself is fantastic. I've tried it out and it was so much better experience than on Quest, obviously. Higher per eye resolution, truer blacks, higher resolution assets, up to 8K resolution textures on PS5 Pro, deeper binocular overlap, heightened sense of presence, crazy post processing power, higher FPS. The works. Unfortunately, though, there is not any kind of standalone mod, and it doesn't feel as comfortable as Quest to just throw it on your face. Like, I needed a lot of adjustments done for it to feel comfortable on my head, and it's quite heavy, so it doesn't match my lifestyle requirements for a VR headset. Otherwise, it could be a love story. But there are also other factors that prevent this hypothetical love story from happening. For example, it's quite fucking pricey. I could barely afford Quest 3 and I probably couldn't afford PSVR anyway. Another component that comes into play is Sony being Sony, and they are strangely fucking dedicated to a cause of having as few games on their gaming platforms as humanly possible. And PSVR isn't exception. So from my perspective, PSVR2 looks like fantastic but quite pricey gear with a very underwhelming library. As for where this platform is going in the future, I don't fucking know. I see just as much apathy from Sony towards their platform as Meta has to theirs. I sincerely hope that this is going to change in the future, and I'm also glad that PSVR gets at least some cool games released on their platform lately. For example, Wrath Eon of Ruin alone is pretty much worth wearing that heavy ass HMD. So, to sum it up, out of the aforementioned three, I think PCVR is primarily the kitchen on which the future of VR is going to be cooked. Because I think what could revitalize the industry the most is big exclusive PCVR projects that doesn't have to work within confines of the mediums like MetaQuest, for example. And hybrid games are a very safe and potentially profitable bet. Look at how Hitman World of Assassination turned out. Just triple A or maybe even double A games having VR modes, VR versions, not mods by enthusiasts and communities, but a real thing that's done by developers and that has some kind of quality standards to it. I think if more developers did what IO Interactive done with Hitman World of Assassinations and what Sean Murray Games did with No Man's Sky VR mode is the future, because in my experience the safest bet to advertise to your potential customer, aka the flat gamer, Like everyone started like that. But the best way to advertise VR to such person is as a medium to play their already favorite thing. People don't want new Asgard's Wrath, unfortunately. But you have to adapt to the market. What people really want is to play their favorite shit in VR. And that's where the things are moving. I think crossplay is a good thing too. And sometimes dedicated VR games having flat versions, especially if we're talking multiplayer titles like Exoshock, may be enormously revitalizing for VR industry because it funnels gamers toward the VR pipeline. It siphons them into the medium effectively, because if you have a VR headset and you have a friend that wants to play with you something online, you can just buy the similar game if it's hybrid or crossplay and play it together on different mediums. And you have more to talk about with each other. And that's what I call building bridges. And as I mentioned, we need more fucking bridges, people. As for standalone, I think Meta will have super fucking hard time coming back, especially considering the elephant in the room that I haven't yet addressed, the upcoming Steam frame. That's a pretty much dark horse at the moment because we still don't know the price. And the price will be answer to every question that every VR enthusiast is asking themselves. Will it be worth the price point as a PCVR headset for PCVR enthusiasts? I don't know. Will it be worth its price as a standalone headset with an access to Steam library? I don't fucking know. Everything lingers on the price point, and it probably will be bad. It probably will be fucking unaffordable, in my opinion, because I don't see the way how the Steam could worm their fucking way out of the price increases, especially considering that AI and data centers stuff are butt fucking us intensely, and they didn't weasel their way out of heightening the price for Steam Deck. So I doubt they could manage it somehow with other equipment, considering the state of the market right now. So everybody holds their breath, but I wouldn't hold it too much because most of us just simply wouldn't be able to afford it, sadly. Well, I think that does it. I was Walter the Jester, and you just heard what I think about where the fuck VR is going and what is going to happen in the nearest future. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to smash the like button and say something nice or not nice in the comments down below. Thank you very much for your attention. Jester out.